I guess I will go live. My co-host said he'll be here in a moment. Hello, Jam. Yes, welcome to TNG Hour 2 with my co-host. There he is. Yeah, there you are. I'm adding you to the scene, and we are already live. The moment took a little bit longer than a moment.
Yup.
All right.
I
So,
cannot hear anything.
cannot
That's
hear
not
anything?
good.
Nice. That's not good. That's
Hmm.
I'm speaking. Let you check your settings. Start this technical
I
difficulty.
gotta hear by myself.
My end it's not bridging time has never been my greatest strength. So just check and figure out the audio settings so you can hear me. Maybe he needs to reboot. That's doable. In the meantime, so yes, we are going to talk about the Klingon episodes of TNG today. And I rewatched all of them, even the ones that are not relevant to the arc, like Heart of Glory from season 1, which was kind of terrible. No. Or that one where future Alexander comes back. Or the one where Worf goes to the Klingon prison camp run by Romulans. It's another tongue twister. Which was the second part of an episode where the first part was about Data dreaming. It made no sense to make that a two-parter and not two separate episodes. But it is how it is. Let's see how things will go after his reboot. Yeah, we'll also briefly talk about how the arc was concluded on Deep Space Nine with, yeah, I think you all know how it ends. Super spoiler, Gowron dies. Ooh. Worf kills him. So, let's just see how long it takes my co-host to figure out how a computer works. mean, we could have done a test run earlier, but I was having like a pulse of 120 beats per minute and needed to lie down for a bit. So that kind of delayed things on that end. So we basically started like hitting the ground running. Or hitting the ground stumbling. More like it. Hitting the ground stumbling. Yes. But we have some time. Not like there's a lot of traffic here right now. Anyway, I don't even know who I'm talking to. Mostly myself, to keep myself busy. Doom, 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 doom. And I apologize for the low quality of the thumbnail, but I am colorblind. It kind of was difficult to make the colors match up. I just did that in Windows Paint anyway. So that looks like he's back. Now we have you twice. Let's remove the broken version. No, I'm the one who doesn't get any sound. Yes, exactly. No, I'm the one who doesn't get any sound. Nice. Mm, that's interesting. What happens if I mute and unmute you? Probably nothing. I said, what is it? Huh? No, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Apparently I can mute someone, but I can't unmute someone. Well, that actually makes sense privacy-wise. JM, can you rejoin, please? Let me just remove you and please rejoin. Wow. This is going well. Smooth sailing. You can see there are professionals at work. Let's see. Like I said, we have plenty of time. Now I can hear you. Can you hear me? Then I'm adding you to the stream. I can hear you.
Okay,
You
good.
can hear me?
So the first time you could hear me, but I couldn't hear you. The second time it was the reverse.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know why.
Well, now we've got
Uh,
both together.
okay. Well,
Finally.
we managed to
Well,
figure out our hailing frequencies. So yeah, everything
yeah.
is.
Yeah, I already used the phrase hitting the ground stumbling.
Yeah,
You're off to a great start.
the subspace communication failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so how's it going?
Yeah, I already listed the basic premise that we were talking about the Klingon episodes. Mostly the ones that are relevant, and on the
Mhm.
side, the ones that are not.
Yeah. So that's why it's good to start a few minutes early because you never know when there might be audio issues.
Yeah, but I already said that I had to lie down for a minute because I noticed
Yeah, yeah. I always.
I felt like I was hearing techno music, but that was my pulse. I was having a
Yeah.
bit of a
Or last week you had a guy on, and he was like talking away, and didn't realize for a few minutes that nobody could
mm,
hear anything that he said, and it's like that's a nightmare scenario that's happened to me a few times doing my
yeah,
podcasts, and I'm just like babbling on, and nobody's saying anything. So I'm like, well, I guess they're listening to what I'm saying, and I just keep talking. Then I get a message that's like, hey, we can't hear anything.
yeah. That's LDG. It happens to him.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so today we're talking about Klingons,
Yeah,
our
and
favorite.
I made a quick list, and like I said, I included the irrelevant episodes like Heart of Glory from not episode one, from season one,
Yeah,
the first time we meet the Klingons. Really, the only good episode. Why do I keep saying episode? The only good part of that episode was actually describing what Geordi sees in his visor, and the whole Klingon story was just, I don't know, meaningless.
yeah, true. Yeah. So we decided on a few. I think we both kind of focused on the same ones. I mean, there's a few like sort of sub, like not plot important Klingon episodes, but ones that I like A Matter of Honor.
A Medal of Honor is
It's
great.
yeah. I mean, it's like it doesn't really do anything to further the lore of the Klingons, but it's just a really awesome, fun episode, right? So
Well, they do show us Gach for the first time, I think.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, I'm actually like quite a fan of season two of TNG. I've always everybody's
Well,
like, oh, the first two seasons suck. They're not very good. Uh, you
oh,
know,
well, season two does have Where Silence Has Lease, which has always been a personal favorite of mine.
yeah, it has quite a
She
few of my
uh,
personal favorites. I like that one
introduces the
for sure.
Borg.
It has like I mean, obviously the Borg two-parter. It's like it's a bigger deal and it's grand. It's more grand and the
Yeah.
stakes feel higher. But I really like their first story uh, because you don't really know anything about them, right? And they just have to escape as fast as possible because they literally can't fight anymore, right? So I don't know. I really like that one, and
And
it's one of the
yeah, I talked about it with someone. Might even have been you. How dark the episode the Royale is. That they find him like in that hotel.
yeah.
Just
I
died
think
in
we
that
did.
horror scene. Yeah, I think that was with you. Yeah,
Uh,
it's
I
just
think we
really
yeah. I think we did. We did talk about that,
yeah.
and of course it's got the episode that introduces Kalar, which
Yeah,
what's the name of that one again?
the
I forget.
emissary.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, the emissary. That's it's funny because it's like also the name of the DS9 pilot.
Yeah,
But
easy to confuse with another episode.
yeah. So I like her. I think we both were talking about her a little bit and how cool she
Hmm.
is as a character, but
Yeah, and that she
they
shouldn't
don't
have
really
died
use.
so early.
Yeah, so they don't really use her very much. She gets killed
No.
off the next time she appears, which I think is
Yeah.
too bad
Yeah.
because then like she could
After
have
that,
yeah, she could have stuck around and she could have even been on DS9.
technically, yeah. I mean, why
Like,
not?
why not? Exactly. And like, she could have been. They could have set up. Not that DS9 already has a bunch of uh, these kind of dramatic things that go on, but like a rivalry between her and Jadzia Dax or something like that. I don't know. Just a thought,
Yeah.
but whatever. They wanted to kill her, so they killed her. So
Yeah.
uh, I think like, she kind of walked into that one like she was a very smart person until all of a sudden she wasn't, and she just kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I
like
think she kind of underestimated how bad Duras was. That he
yeah,
immediately sent somebody to kill her. That he was like a mafia boss at that point.
yeah. So why do we want to talk about the Klingons? What do we like so much about them? Uh,
The Shakespearean writing, first of all,
yeah,
like if you watch the Redemption two-part, the way they talk to each
yeah,
other, it's just incredible to listen to.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one of the things I like. I like the grandiosity of them. I think
Yeah,
sometimes, I mean, I like Star Trek. Don't get me wrong. TNG is great, but sometimes I think it's a little bit stiff. So sometimes it's nice to have characters who don't give a shit and just go way over the top. Like they just
exactly.
not just the dialogue, but like really dramatic, over the top acting. That's fun to watch, and listen to.
And
And
they did actually have some really great actors for the Klingons. I don't remember the name of the guy who played Duras, but Robert O'Reilly
yeah,
played Gowron, and
yeah, he's
he's
awesome.
legendary. And I remember uh,
And
Gwyneth Walsh and Barbara something who played Lursa and Bator. They are
oh yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
And
Those two are really funny. I don't know. I didn't like them at first, but on my rewatches of these episodes, especially Redemption, like I was quite amused by them. Uh, those is two. It's funny because I was watching somebody's video on YouTube. He does videos about Star Trek 2, and he said if you can't remember which one is which, uh, Betor is the horny one, and Lursa is the one with the brains.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. uh, and it's funny, seeing them try to tempt Picard, I guess, into orbiting on their side. But
Yeah,
I
and
hadn't watched a lot of these episodes in a really long time.
yeah, it was
I'm-
fun rewatching them. Mm.
yeah, so my big TNG watching was all in the early '90s, right? Because that's when
Pretty
it was
much,
on
yeah.
television, and I had the whole series here at home for quite a few years. But generally, what I just do is, when I feel the mood, I just kind of put on a random episode, and I mean, I think I must have rewatched a good half of them by now, but there are some of them like Redemption that I never actually rewatched since then. So I forgot how good that was, and I also
Yeah,
forgot that Sela was in it.
yeah, true. Yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
Hmm.
I don't really,
That
I
was
don't know
actually
if
her
I would have been
introduction.
with. Yeah, it was her first story, or was yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because she wasn't in yesterday's Enterprise, but she's kind of like it alludes back to that episode, which is also
Um,
what I haven't watched
she
in a long time.
appears once before in the background of the episode where Geordi gets his mind taken over. It's what
The
was
one
it?
where he's being mind controlled.
Yeah, where he
Yeah,
has to kill some Klingon dude. 1 second, that has to be in season 4. I need to check the title. Was it
Ah,
The Mind's Eye? The Mind's Eye, yes.
okay. Yeah. But
I
I don't know how
rewatched
I
that one
feel.
too.
What's that?
I rewatched that one too because it's semi tangentially related.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't rewatch that one, but uh, yeah. I mean, I don't know how I feel about like having. I mean, she's an interesting character, and her backstory is kind of fucked up. But I don't know how I feel about her being there. Like, it just didn't really seem like it was needed, and in the end, they just kind of like it's like you're not really sure if the Romulans are, they have a high. They seem to be like she seems to kind of almost be running the show, but then in the end, she's not, and she just kind of like, okay, well, we've been spotted now. We're gonna just
Yeah.
go home. It's just, okay,
We tried, but didn't work.
you failed.
Who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah. And she doesn't seem that put out by it either, which is
Yeah.
hilarious. Like she just seems like very unemotional about it. I don't know if that's just Denise Crosby or if it's the character, but she just seems so like blasé about. Oh yeah, our plan
Yep.
failed. Goodbye,
Yep.
Lord Saint Baitor. Good
Whoops.
luck. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird, but I don't know. I mean, I like the Romulans as a rule, but it just seems like they're always like in the background trying to deceive somebody, right? That's kind of their thing. It's like Cardassians are all throwing their weight around and grandiose, and Romulans are like more background players, and they
Yeah.
like deception and they like political manipulation and stuff. So, uh, but yeah, favorite Klingon Gowron, right? I mean, that's mine. I mean, he's just a man.
Go
I
run,
don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, I don't know.
Worf!
Your blood will paint the way for the future. I can't do that. I can't. I don't really know. I don't really know what flaring your eyes means, but apparently that's what he does.
Yeah, he opens his eyes really wide. That's like his trademark.
Yeah. So according to Robert O'Reilly's Memory Alpha page, he had originally played the character much more low key, and he wanted to be like this cold and calculating kind of character. But after the first audition, he kind of realized that that wasn't successful. So that's when he started doing the eye thing,
Yeah.
and that's when he got the part. So it's like he's not a subtle character. That's kind of the point of him. That's what makes him so great, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like I'm too, like I'm too Klingon for subtlety. Like,
Definitely. He's one of the most over the top Klingon characters probably in the whole franchise.
yeah. And the funny thing is that he's like, he seems well. You don't know absolutely whether you could trust him, but he's usually on the right side, more or less. And I guess until he gets taken by a shapeshifter in Deep Space Nine. uh, I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that one. Yeah.
That
Uh,
was actually Martok, as it turned out.
oh, it was more. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. I see it. I haven't watched that one in a while either. Yeah. Uh, I guess the two actors were buddies. They knew each other, but they're not. Yeah. I shouldn't get their characters confused. But
Well, they did think it was Gowron at first, but then it turned out it was actually Martok.
oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think I remember. I'm just now I want to rewatch that one. I wish I had done it, but it's okay. We're focusing on TNG, so uh,
Exactly.
but I like DS9 a lot. It's one of these things. Like I always say, DS9 is one of my favorites, but it's the kind of show where it's less fun if you randomly just watch episodes like you can with TNG, because even though it's
Yeah.
not completely serialized, there's kind of things that reward like just watching it in order. So And that's hard for me. Like it's hard for me to sit down and watch a show like
Yeah,
back to back. I don't
definitely.
really. Yeah,
If you watch like one Deep Space Nine episode, you gotta watch like at least 20 of them.
yeah, yeah. And there's some that definitely stand out in my mind, but it's like every time I think about watching Deep Space Nine, it's almost like, well, I should start at the beginning again because it's been a while, and then I get it to a certain point, and I just don't continue. So one of these days, I'm just going to rewatch the entire thing. But
Yeah, I mean, it's good to keep in mind that there are certain episodes you can skip.
yeah, true. But but then again, sometimes the episodes that people don't like that much are episodes that I think are pretty cool. So, like, without remembering those episodes and what their titles are, I probably just watch them anyway, just because
Hmm.
I don't really know. And afterwards, I'll probably be like, "Yeah, that was a bit shit," but
Yeah,
you never know. You never know, right? So, I mean, I think another good potential topic for later might be episodes that aren't not fan favorites that we really like, and in say TNG, right? I mean, I
yeah,
don't know. You mentioned Where Silence Has Lease. I don't think
yeah.
too many people talk about that episode, but it's pretty awesome, right? So
There's
yeah.
actually one that is one of the lowest rated on IMDb, called we talked about it last time too, where Deanna Troy floats through the night terrors. Night terrors, yeah. The eyes in the darkness, the moon circles. I love that episode.
Oh, I don't remember that episode. uh, huh. Well, okay. That's not the one where like they're at this house and it's like on this planet, and it turns out there's only this couple survived or something like that, and Deanna is haunted.
No, there's
Survivor.
a
That's not.
that's
Yeah.
the survivor, yeah, with the
Right.
super
Right. Okay.
powerful being.
Okay. Yeah. That one I think is quite well liked. Um. Yeah, and I mean like unification. I don't know how would people think of that one. Like most people, I think generally with the TNG two-parters, there's a feeling that part ones are usually awesome and part twos are not as good. Uh, Generally, I agree with that. Actually, a lot of the time, but in general, actually, that sometimes is my problem with TNG. Is they
Mhm.
sometimes don't really seem to know how to end a story very satisfactorily. Sometimes,
Yeah,
just like you know, but that's. I mean, I'm a weird person about stories, right? Like I always like the beginning, and I remember the early stuff, and the ending of a story in sci-fi sometimes is just like, yeah, a bunch of shit blows up. I don't remember. Like they won somehow. I don't know. So yeah, I'm just like that, I guess. But the Klingon, yeah, redemption is pretty solid all the way through, despite not being too sure about the inclusion of the Romulans.
yeah, that was. I'm not sure they feel shoved in. It should have focused on the Klingon Civil War a lot more and not make it about
Yeah,
the Romulans.
yeah, right, right. I mean, I'm almost never going to complain about Romulans being there, but it just seemed like an unnecessary addition that didn't go
Mm.
anywhere. But
I mean, it did
one
have
thing I
the
was,
scene of Data being captain and his first officer saying, I don't want to serve under you. That was like the good part of it.
hmm, yeah, one thing I I remember telling you about this. So when I first watched Redemption, I was maybe 12, maybe 13. I don't know, 12 probably, and um, Worf deciding that he was going to throw down his badge and resign from Starfleet was like a really sad moment for me at that time. It's like, oh no, is he going to leave? It's Worf going to be? He's he's not going to be on the ship anymore. Oh no. I think I must have known that wasn't going to happen because I think at that time season six was already showing. But I don't know. It was still effective. Now, of course, when I watch it, I'm like, well, what choice did he have, really? Right? Like, of course, he did the right thing. It's-
The
and Picard
funny
didn't even.
thing is that on Deep Space Nine, he wanted to resign at least once again, maybe even twice. He constantly seems to be wanting to resign.
Yeah. The cool thing about DS9 though is that he could have actually resigned and still stayed on DS9
Yeah.
because DS9 is just like that. It's just a place where people of all different like social standards and statuses walk around and do their thing. So
And yeah,
if
his brother was briefly in the Bajoran security force, which, by the way, is another great actor, Tony Todd, a recurring Star Trek actor who played Kern,
oh yeah,
Worf's brother.
what
Yeah.
yeah, did he show up a lot in DS9? I can't remember.
No, just once, I think,
Just
and
once.
then he semi died.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So in Redemption, I really like the bars, the scene where they're hanging out at this Klingon bar. And of course, it's the most rowdy
Yeah,
bar you could possibly imagine, right? Where like there's fights all the time, and but everybody's in a really good mood for the most part,
yeah,
and that's why you like the Klingons, right? Because
yeah,
they're way more rambunctious than most Star Trek people, right? Like they hang out and on the Enterprise they hang out in 10 forward, and
yeah.
most of the time you're like, what that stuff they're drinking is it real alcohol? They say it's synthale, but what does that mean, right?
Exactly, yeah. And
you know,
the really fun thing about that scene in Redemption was that it was the enemies in the Civil War that were hanging out
but we're
uh,
hanging out and we're drinking,
and
and
doing arm wrestling and knocking their heads together and partying. And
yeah,
tomorrow I'll see you in battle and I'll kill you.
it's so good, yeah.
It's
And then
so
of course,
Klingon.
is that where yeah, Worf gets like knocked out or something like that, and yeah, he gets dragged
Yeah,
into Warsaw Meteors. So yeah, of course,
yeah.
shit happens even when everybody's having a good time.
And Beto does her usual thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you could have a very good time.
Yes. You just wait and see. Yeah. So I have these I don't know, for anybody who might be watching the stream and might not know, I'm a not non-seeing person, so I don't actually see anything. Uh, when I watched TNG originally, I didn't have any additional aids or anything like that. I just listened to it and it was fine. I
Yeah,
didn't feel like I was missing much of anything. But now, occasionally, I will use this really good page of transcripts, which not only has all the dialogue but also short descriptions of the scenes and maybe little actions on screen. It doesn't really describe everything, but it's like enough
yeah,
to give you a few pointers here and there. I'm assuming they're kind of figuring that most people are probably seeing what's going on, but they still put in some like minor details. And so the person was mentioning how tactile Betor was, and that she likes to like touch everybody.
yeah,
And that was funny. Like it feels kind of not Klingon, but at the same time, she probably has a very like predatory, way of doing it. So it's okay. I just like, yeah, that's it's. I remember originally watching them, and they showed up on DS9 a bunch too, and I'm like, these two women are really weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was actually already on a matter of honor that Klingon women are very known for their appetites.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Actually, we already had that all the way back in the beginning in the episode with the Traveler, where no one has gone before, where Worf gets a vision of a Klingon woman. Or is it that episode where Riker gets turned into a Q? I don't know. One of the
Right.
two.
And then
One of those two.
on the ship Riker is on, and Matter of Honor, there's at least one Klingon woman who fancies Riker, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think he plays along, but
I was
maybe.
Riker, you never know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he is the the so-called womanizer of TNG, but I don't think he really is. He's all right. He doesn't seem like everything is good and consensual and on the level with him. He's a nice guy. So he has this reputation sometimes that like is maybe a bit overblown, kind of like Captain Kirk, where
Yeah.
he's just like, yeah, I mean, you know, uh, but yeah, I wanted to talk for a minute about how the look of the Klingons changed, right, between TOS and TNG.
Yeah.
And so did they have the forehead ridges on TOS or not? They didn't, did they?
No, they didn't. They had the beginnings of it on the motion picture, and then fully on Search for Spock.
Okay. And then on an episode of Enterprise, they felt the need to explain why that happened.
Yeah, that was really just for fun, and it was fine. You could tell
Yes.
they were really just having fun with it. They went. It wasn't like that they felt it was necessary. They just wanted to have fun with the
I get
concept.
it. Yeah, so I mean people say that it's fan wank, but I guess yeah, it's they were like you said, they were probably just having
Mm.
fun with it. I haven't actually
Yeah.
watched that because I still haven't seen very much of Enterprise, but I did notice somewhere that that was a thing. So,
Yeah.
but that I feel like so far I've had a pretty good time with Enterprise, so I'm probably going to enjoy it. It's like
Mm.
it seems like the show that has an unnecessarily poor reputation sometimes.
It has
So,
one of my favorite casts. Some of the stories are a bit thin. That's why it's got its reputation. But it's got a great cast.
oh yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
And
and
it's
it's got some fun
entertaining.
characters
Yeah.
like Archer and Doctor Phlox and
Mm.
Trip. It's pretty cool, but
Mm.
so and it's got like, um, what's her name, T'Pol the Vulcan.
Yeah.
She's not like she doesn't really fulfill the usual Vulcan role on Star Trek. Kind of like I remember, with Voyager, it was kind of like, oh, here we go again with like we just have to have this unemotional character on Star Trek who's like
Mm.
I don't know. It's just I think by Voyager I was just burnt out or something, and that's why I like didn't watch Enterprise when it was on TV,
Yeah.
and so but yeah. So obviously the more modern look of the Klingons is it probably looks cooler or something, and I imagine that's why they did it.
Yeah.
Uh, what about the Discovery Klingons and stuff?
That doesn't look cooler.
They don't count.
That just looks so horrible, and they put prosthetics on their cheeks so they can't even properly speak. That's why all their Klingon speaking sounds like they're whining.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
I get it.
because they got these thick prosthetics on their cheeks. They can't even
Uh,
enunciate.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched that much, so I saw, but I did see a bunch of them in the season one. So I know how much you're a huge fan of Discovery.
Yeah,
You love Discovery more than anything else in the world.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
They can't even get the basics right. Like when they want to say Kalis, they say like Kalish. What?
yeah.
Can't even say Kalis? Is that so difficult?
Oh yeah. Wow. So I obviously the first Klingon that we see on TNG, of course, is Worf, and
Yeah.
I think again it's interesting to see how things develop as the show goes on. Like I said before, I really like the beginnings of things, so I'm not like too down on season one. I don't think it's that terrible. I mean, it has bad episodes, but so do all the other seasons. So, and I like the fact that there's a bit more variety in the music, and I like the fact that even the characters are not really fully like they didn't really know what they were doing yet, and
Yeah.
I actually enjoy that. So, I definitely think like Worf in the beginning, he just seems almost like a comic relief character, and every so often they use him as that again later on, like even as late as DS9 sometimes, because
I
he's
mean,
like,
weird as it is, Worf kind of needed Tasha Yar to die to become a real character.
yeah, it definitely took a bit of time. So like and in season one, a lot of the time he's just kind of sitting on the bridge, and every so often somebody will say something, and Worf will interject some comment, and it's just like sometimes it's kind of random, like Klingons appreciate strong women. Like it's like okay, good to know.
The honorable thing would be to fight back.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Wolf.
yeah. So it's like again, characters like the Klingons and the Ferengi changed over time. Well, I guess more so the Ferengi, but like the Klingons, they weren't featured that much in the first season. I don't think. I think there was maybe one episode
It's,
that had a Klingon
yeah,
besides
it's
Worf.
just that Matter of Honor episode. Not Matter of
Okay,
Honor. Heart of Glory, I mean.
right. Yeah. Okay. I did watch that one somewhat recently. I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's the one that introduced the Klingon screaming thing after a warrior dies, that they all need to scream to warn Sto that a new warrior is arriving.
yeah. The Klingon rituals. One episode that so I was actually really looking forward to the season six Klingon episodes because I remembered them being really good. Um, I was a little bit disappointed with Birthright. Maybe like I remembered it being
Yeah, I don't understand why that's a two-parter because it's two different episodes. It makes no sense.
yeah. I mean, but when you think about it, I mean, I guess it's still kind of cool because like in the first part, the Worf plot line is kind of in the background, but it's still there.
Mm,
And then the second part focuses wholly, more or less, on the Worf plotline, which
yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah, they could have just named them two separate things, and the effect would have been the same. But the thing is, TNG almost never did that. DS9 would have done that. DS9
mm,
would have had the data stuff called something else, and then
mm,
Worf would have been like slowly finding out the truth about where his father might be and all this stuff. And then
yeah.
the next episode would have been called whatever, and he would have just gone off and done the thing. But I guess I don't know. Yeah, I mean, thinking about it like that, like it's not really disappointing. I guess it just kind of feels like things happen very quickly in the second part. But I still really like, I like the idea of the weird prison, like
Mm,
Klingon prison
mm,
camp, where everybody actually kind of gets along. Uh, with like, um, it seems like again, Romulans getting involved in things and like
mm.
manipulating people, but this guy doesn't seem like he's that bad. He's like
Yeah,
kind of
I
just
mean, the real question is, and I actually read the commentary on Memory Alpha, and I didn't find anything about it. How would the episode have been if Worf's father actually would have had been there?
yeah, yeah. I got you.
I think that could have made a better story actually if his father actually, and
Yeah,
you can make him like maybe he's on his deathbed or something, or make it something dramatic like that. But if he had been there, how
I
would that
agree.
have changed the episode?
I think that would have been maybe a bit more tense and interesting. Uh, but
Because the
yeah,
way it was just these random people and their kids, and
hmm, yeah, yeah. It would have been a good source of tension if he'd actually found him there. And but I don't know. I still kind of liked it. I remembered for some reason. I guess I have strong association with things, so I remembered where I was when I watched that episode. I was out my mom's fellow's place, and it's like I think it was Saturday night or Saturday evening there would be a new Star Trek episode, and it's like season six is generally pretty good. So
Yeah.
and that one was one that I remembered quite fondly. Of course, the song, the Klingon singing the song, that's always cool.
Mm.
that the singing it all together and celebrating their heritage without even really understanding it, but just like
Yeah.
yeah. And so we get a kind of a follow up to that in oh crap, what's it called? The Rightful Lair.
Yeah. The Alexander episode.
Yeah. So I quite like that episode. I like that it starts out with like Worf on the ship, and he's kind of been keeping it inside that he's feeling like not happy about this whole thing, and not sure if he really believes in Klingon Jesus and all
Mm.
that,
Yeah.
you know, and he's
Oh
so
no, that was first one. Okay, Rightful Heir is the Kalis episode. Sorry, first one is the Alexander episode. I got that confused.
oh yeah, yeah, Caleb. He uh, he's so torn up about it that he does something that you never think what Worf would do, and that's like neglect his duty. He doesn't show up when he's supposed to show up, and Picard is so worried about him that he goes to his cabin by him like himself, you know, and it's like finds that he's ripped up all the furniture and stuff like that. And, so then he goes to that planet, whatever it's called, and he participates in like this vision ritual in a cave.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, he doesn't see anything, but then somebody who's apparently Kalis shows up, and I mean, I guess I have questions about that. Like, I mean, I don't really know what the I guess the guys that so it's not the real Kalis. Obviously, it's a clone, right? So I don't
Yeah.
really know what they were trying to achieve necessarily. Like, it seems really passive. Like they don't seem to be trying to pull his strings like a puppet for some kind of
Yeah.
political aim. They just seem to hope that like just the fact that he's Kalis will be enough to, I guess, I don't know, unite the Klingons and make them strong or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and they don't really seem to be investing too much energy in making it convincing. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure they thought that through.
yeah. The whole plan seemed kind of half-assed, but I guess I just
Mm.
really like, the guy who's playing Kalis is putting a lot into it,
Yeah.
and he seems like the kind of Klingon that's like not even like that would be wise and would be kind of somebody who relates to people psychologically, and so like maybe that's what the original Kalis was like, maybe not, but it was a really, I thought it was really well done. And then of course he has the showdown with Gowron, which is my favorite thing. It's Gowron's kind of asking him, "Oh, what was the name of that person who stood in the storm and tried to shout down the wind?" Like, you should know,
Mm.
you were there.
Yeah.
and 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 they find out that it's not the real Kalis. And I don't know. I mean, I again, it's like the journey to me is more important than the destination. So I don't really
Mm.
mind that the ending is a little bit like, oh, okay, so they found out that that's not the real Kalis, and Worf is like, but it doesn't really matter uh, because the Klingon people still need him. So did they ever follow that up? I don't remember.
No, they only mention it once that Worf was trying to call Emperor Kalis in some Deep Space Nine episode where he's trying to reach the Klingon homeworld.
So that's literally, it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, it
Oh well,
doesn't.
yeah, that's okay.
At least it gets mentioned once.
Yeah. At least it gets a name check, right?
Yeah.
Uh, that's that's normal. Like that's I mean we're getting into the season 7 of TNG by that point, and I've complained about that before in our last stream, even where it just feels
Yeah.
like all this stuff happens that should be important, but like they never do anything with it because it's not that kind of show. But also, it's ending soon, so it's like they don't have time to discuss the fact that all this stuff is happening, and they just seem to be struggling to find big things to do. But we're still in season 6 with that episode, so it's like it's towards the end of that season. I think it's like even the second or third last one or something. Uh, but yeah, I like that one a lot, and I guess it is kind of. I mean, certainly Kalis comes up again. There's that DS9 episode where they find the sword of Kalis, and
Yeah, true.
that's a good
Yeah.
Klingon episode too, mind you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was John Colicos from TOS again?
yeah,
Core.
yeah. He is in
Actually,
it.
yeah. He
Yeah.
actually yesterday I watched the last episode with him where he's going on a suicide mission uh, against
Oh,
the
so that's
Jamada.
Core is played by John Colicos, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I knew that name was familiar from Star Trek. So I actually watched a
Mm.
movie last week called The Changeling, which was like it's like a haunted house, a really good kind of haunted house type movie from 1980, and it has George C. Scott and the lead role, and John Colicos is in it. And I'm like, I know that name. Where did I see
Uh,
that name before? It's something Star Trek, but I couldn't
yeah.
think what it was. And so now, yeah, okay. And I'm like, yeah, he plays a Klingon. Yeah.
Well, I
I'll
think
have
he
to,
was also in Battlestar Galactica.
yeah, I'll have to tell my friend about that because she's a big Star Trek fan and she loves TOS. So I don't know if he probably looks quite different without all the makeup. So yeah, yeah, that was cool too, having him come back on a different show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was one of the original TOS Klingons, and like,
Yeah, I mean,
they
they
didn't.
first all came back on the Blood Oath episode where Jadzia Dex has to go on a revenge thing with Kang, Kor, and Koloth.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I remember that one. I need to rewatch some of these episodes for sure. I'm just getting my drink here, but I'm not going away this time. I don't have to walk away from the microphone too much. But yeah, yeah. So Jadzia Dax really likes Klingons. Obviously, she
Yeah.
enjoys hanging out with them. She's very happy that Worf joined DS9, and I don't know. I guess she likes it pretty rough because apparently Klingons are all very rough when they engage in their lovemaking activities.
Yeah.
So you watched something that I didn't watch, and that's a couple of Alexander episodes, right?
Only the one where future Alexander returns. I didn't watch any of the ones where Worf is having problem with Alexander. Loxana Troy is teaching Alexander how to have fun, and it's like nobody wants to see that.
No, no. Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to watch it. I don't know. Uh, the thing is, like, none of the episodes on TNG that feature children are very great to me, and Alexander is like maybe one of the least great. It's not nothing against the child actor. Apparently, um, the person who played him, I think both actors are dead now, or is it just one?
I thought it was just one. I don't know how many
Yeah,
Alexanders died by now.
yeah. That kind of sounds like a pretty sad story, and I'm sure he did his best, but I don't know. It's just like on DS9, I can accept it a little more, and like it's cool growing up with Jake and all that, and like it's
Yeah.
fine. But like I mean, on TNG, okay. I mean, Wesley. fine. He's not really a kid. He's kind of like on the edge of adolescence. He's getting up there already, and by the time we get to like season 6 or whatever, he leaves for good. He's like, I don't know, he might be 20 or something like that. But well, with like all these young kids and focusing on the kid that worships Data and the kid that has the imaginary friend that's actually an alien, and then yeah, Worf's got his uh, Worf's got his son that he now has to take care of, and
Yeah.
so he features in a few episodes, and
Yeah,
yeah,
too
it's
many because it's always the same story with I don't want to be a Klingon. I don't want to be a Klingon. Gets a bit annoying. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
we
it's
get
really
it. It's not much of a story. Stop trying to push it on us.
right. And so they finally end it where he meets the older Alexander. Uh,
Yeah.
and I remember this is an episode that for some reason I only watched it once and I missed the beginning. So I tuned in. I don't know how far along the episode was, but it was already like kind of far along, and I was a bit confused about what was happening for sure. But yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, that's really weird. So I mean,
In the
uh,
beginning, he introduced himself as an advisor to the House of Moog.
okay, yeah, yeah, that's weird. Um,
And
I
then when
guess.
then he tries to kill Alexander, as in his younger self, and
Mhm.
then Worf tries to kill him, and then he reveals who he really is.
Ah, big shocking revelation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that was the last we ever saw of that of him. Like not even just
Yeah.
like the younger one too, right? We didn't see him after that.
Well, he appeared in Deep Space Nine, but last on Deep
Oh,
Space Nine, I think. Last on TNG, I mean.
okay. So wait, how he wasn't? He didn't go to live with Worf on DS9 though, did he?
No, but they served on the same ship eventually, and then he was like basically like a young man and suddenly wanted to be a warrior, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Worf didn't believe him, and Worf, being the greatest father in the universe as usual, tried to throw him off the ship, but then they kind of made peace.
Good riddance. Yeah, yeah. Star Trek seems to want to TNG maybe on DS9, I guess. Focus on the father son relationship a lot. Um, so we have Worf and Alexander, obviously, but we also have Cisco and Jake, who it's
Yeah.
obviously that's a much more enjoyable relationship to watch.
Yeah, it works a lot better.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It's a funny seeing Worf like complaining about Alexander because apparently he likes jazz music. Riker's like been playing him Dixieland records or something like that. That's so weird. I always thought it was funny how Star Trek, like all the characters on Star Trek, seem to really enjoy like very old art from the 20th century and before, and it just kind of makes me wonder, like, do people think that I don't know, like, do people in the 24th century think that the people on the Enterprise are kind of old fashioned squares because they you know love Charles Dickens and Dixon Hill detective novels and Dixieland jazz. Like, it's just
Yeah,
it's
it's a really common Star Trek trope. Like on Voyager, we have Tom Paris. He's a big fan of 20th century history. Of course
yeah,
he is.
yeah, it's very convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's as I call it, I kind of appreciate things like so. I read a Star Trek novel recently because I'm going to have it on my. We're going to feature it on the Chrononauts podcast, but and it's called Wounded Sky, and I think it was originally published sometime between Star Trek 3 and 4. I want to say. I don't know. I don't think TNG had started yet, and
Yeah.
so one thing I noticed about I haven't read a Star Trek novel in a really long time, and
Mm.
I mean, they generally are not very experimental because, and they don't really push the envelope too much because they can't
Yeah.
really interfere with what's on the television show. Although, in my opinion, they could if they wanted to, but I don't know. It's whatever. That would probably piss off a bunch of the fans. So, but one thing I appreciate is they do try to present a more rounded portrayal of Federation in terms of like, you know, actually showing well what things are like in the 23rd or 24th century, and that not everybody, like most of the aliens actually don't look human, and most of like the people are actually into contemporary things from that time
Yeah.
period. They're not all into stuff from several hundred years ago, right? So it's like it shows they're not afraid to go a little bit weirder
Mm.
with the aliens because they're not limited by the TV budget, right? And
Yeah.
they're not afraid to be like, they like this, weird 24th century art that doesn't exist now, right? So and
There's actually something that bothered me a few days ago when I was watching Deep Space Nine.
yeah,
I can understand why the human characters use the phrase Klingon opera, but why does Worf say it? Wouldn't it just be opera to him?
why
Why
they
does
use what?
Worf Klingon opera? Why does Worf say Klingon opera? Shouldn't it just be no
Shouldn't it just be
opera?
opera?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so. I guess I guess Klingon opera is just that distinctive, right? So, and I don't know. I guess Worf, having spent so much time with humans, probably, I don't know. It's probably thinks of it separately. Aren't his Worf's parents are like Italian or something? His human parents?
No, they are Russian or Belarusian.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know we meet them in at least one episode, and I sort of thought I remembered Italian accents, but I don't know. Yeah.
No, they are from like
Okay. Well, Russians can like opera too, so
no.
yeah.
Yeah, they wrote plenty of ones.
Right.
Uh, I mean, Rozhenko, that's a name from that region.
Yeah. Hmm. So yeah. Obviously, the Klingons are generally portrayed as being like, especially in TNG, they're allies of the Federation, but it just seems like the piece is always a little bit fragile. So in Deep Space Nine, it kind of starts to collapse,
Yeah,
and for a little while anyway. Um, and I mean, I kind of like that. Like I don't know. I don't mind the fact that they can, like, there's antagonism there, and yeah, I mean, it just seems like sometimes the Klingon, I guess, society, philosophy, and stuff like that, and kind of like the Ferengis, right? It just seems like it's not really compatible with the way the Federation does things.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know,
There's like a quote from the episode where Worf marries Jadzia, where Martok says, "We're Klingons. We do not embrace other cultures. We conquer them."
yeah, we conquer them, right?
Or
Yeah,
in that last core episode, he says like, "Worf, you've been hanging around this democratic rebel for too long."
I know. Yeah, it's been corrupted. Yeah, and I mean, I think that is like that's cool that Star Trek can show that these oppositional cultures can still sometimes be on the same side, but
Yeah,
they never really compromise themselves. So they never, they're on the same side, but like the Klingons are not going to get softer
yeah.
because of contamination from the Federation and stuff, and so they remained themselves. And I don't know. I mean, it's a little different with the Ferengi because I think like they do kind of want to show like the more human side of them in the sense that yeah, they're not just greedy and avaricious, and their society venerates those things somewhat, but um, they seem to DS9 went a long way towards making the Ferengi very lovable,
Yeah.
and it's not at all how they started, but I don't mind. I mean, most people find the early Ferengi pretty laughable, so
Yeah, it's a bit over the top.
yeah, yeah, that's because I missed a lot of the season one episodes when I was like really young, so I came back to it later, again in the early '90s, uh,
Yeah.
and it was a real trip seeing some of those really early ones because it
Yeah.
felt like a lot had happened
I mean,
somehow. Like,
when I started watching TNG, it was like on season 3. So,
yeah, my first
I,
TNG episode was actually the battle, which was a Ferengi episode.
huh.
Yeah, the battle. I was actually. I think I told you this story before, but my older cousin, was into it. And he was telling me about it, and I guess he was like really excited about there being new Star Trek. Right? Everybody was,
Yeah.
and I was kind of a little bit familiar with TOS. I'd seen a little bit of it, a few episodes here and there, and so when I watched the battle, I was expecting Captain Kirk and Spock to be there. So I was very confused about who these people were.
Yeah.
I would have been like maybe 8 years old, if that. And it's maybe even 7.
Mm.
So and yeah, that's just like I just remember, you know, Cap Riker on the communicator being like, "Destroy the sphere."
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
like,
but I had that as a little kid too. People told me, this is Star Trek and this is Star Trek. What?
yeah,
Doesn't look anything alike.
the new Star Trek. Yeah,
Huh.
and that's what I always remind people when they like complain about season one. And I'm like, yeah, but if you were there and you were like watching the saucer separation, you would have been excited.
Hmm. Yeah.
You would have been into it. And yeah, I mean, it's got some shit episodes, but I think even at that time, people didn't really mind the shit episodes so much because it was just it's new Star Trek. That's awesome,
Hmm.
and that they wanted to see like Star Trek built up this thing, TNG, I mean, built up this thing where you just, like we were saying
Hmm.
about season seven, by then, you just like the characters and you want to spend time with them. And it's like,
Yeah.
you'll watch the weaker stories, especially if they're on TV, you'll just watch them because you like coming home in the evening and watching Star Trek. And that's how it was for me and a lot of other people. You get home from work and school and you'd watch Star Trek.
Yeah.
And, that's yeah. And you
Yeah.
were saying even now in Germany, right? They still show TNG on television.
Yeah, they do. They've been doing that my entire life, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know where you watch TNG on the television here nowadays. I haven't actually had regular TV in decades.
Yeah,
So
same here. It's just when I see the TV guide at my parents' place when I visit them that I see it's still on.
that's pretty rad. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. But of course, when we were kids, TOS was still on television too, and it was being syndicated. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation actually showed TOS on television every Thursdays or something like that, and in the early '90s. So, it's like again, I don't know like about all these new streaming shows. Like, I don't know how much of a life expectancy they have in terms of like longevity, and if people are people going to watch Picard in 20 years. I don't know.
Are people watching Picard now?
Well, yeah, I know, but. Yeah. I couldn't make it through. I couldn't make it through very far. It made me really sad.
Yeah, that's not a story that needed to be told. It's not what the characters needed to be brought back for.
Yeah.
Oh, the crew is getting a send-off. They already had that in All Good Things, so the movies weren't even necessary.
Yeah. It just seemed like I don't know. For me, it was just Patrick Stewart. Just, I mean, all respect to the guy. He's great. He was one of my favorite actors on TNG and all that. So and he knows what he's doing, and he really got into the part, even though he wasn't sure at first. And he always says that. He always says like,
Mm,
"Yeah, in the beginning, I wasn't sure about this. Like, I didn't know if I should be doing this role." And season one was apparently very difficult for the cast. Like,
mm,
nobody was very happy. So I think that kind of reflects badly on season one too. Like, in with the fans, they think about it and they think about like how unhappy Denise Crosby was and how
yeah,
Patrick Stewart wasn't always happy and how Gates McFadden got fired and all this stuff, right?
yeah.
It's just, but yeah, now it's just like, oh man, Patrick Stewart just sounds so old and like decrepit. I don't know. I think it's a
Oh,
yeah, but he didn't. If he didn't sound like that in that movie, The Green Room, that came out a few years ago. Have you seen that?
no, I've seen Logan, but there he was deliberately decrepit. Okay, that doesn't count.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that. But The Green Room, he plays this like Nazi white power guy, and he's like, it's about a bunch of punks that uh, are driving around on their little tour, and they play a club run by these skinheads, and Patrick Stewart's kind of like running the establishment, and they've got I don't know, it's some kind of drug making lab, and it's weird ways of making money and all that. I don't know, it's pretty good. It's kind of like a slasher, a little bit by the end. Like
Yeah, I
it's
think
kind
I
of
read a review of it when it came out. I always wanted to see it, but I never got around to it.
what happened.
I think I read a review about it and always wanted to see it, but never got around to it.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's kind of fun. But I'm after that. I had this like this like fan fiction thing in my head of Patrick Stewart's character from The Green Room and Avery Brooks' character from American History X having a fight.
Okay.
How cool that was! Yeah. um, but yeah, like that's I don't know, and I think that some of it was a conscious decision to play like a much older Picard, right? I don't know. I'm not gonna probably ever watch more than what I watched, which was like
Yeah, it's not
less
really worth
less
it.
yeah, less than halfway through season one, and I'm just like, no, I can't. Like
And I did
apparently it just gets worse. So I don't know. Yeah,
I did actually rewatch the other emissary, the Deep Space Nine pilot, the other day, where
yeah,
Cisco and Picard meet.
they do. Yeah, and that's a great scene.
We've met before. We've
I
met
think
in battle.
that to me is like the best Star Trek pilot. It's
Yeah,
so good.
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, the part in the middle with the prophets, it's really long, where they ask, "What is this?" about everything he says.
Hmm.
Time, what is this? Death, what is this? Lust, what is this? And it's like,
Yeah. I don't know. It's all right. It doesn't bother me. Yeah. I just think that it's so different than the other Star Trek shows, and I was there for it. I was like there in the beginning, and I was like, you know what? I think this is going to be an awesome show. And then the next episode was really good too, because that was the one that introduced Garrick, and
yeah.
like so after those two, I was like, you know what? Even if the rest of the season isn't as good as this, I'm on board. Like I did end up not watching the whole show, just because I don't know when. Some point in high school, I guess I just didn't really. I don't know. Again, it was Voyager. It's just like I just stopped watching Star Trek. So yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
come back to it till 2013, pretty much.
Uh,
So
yeah, it was a bit difficult, but then came the part where Wolf came back and it got more interesting again.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, oh, uh, I definitely, I definitely think that Deep Space Nine was like, it's the show that I feel if I wanted to introduce somebody to Star Trek who didn't really vibe with the concept of Star Trek, like exploring strange new worlds and stuff like that, that would probably be a good. Plus, it feels very modern in the sense that it's like everything kind of is linked together with the
Yeah.
episodes following on from one another and stuff. And it I kind of sometimes I'm kind of curious is if somebody didn't know anything about Star Trek and they just started watching DS9, would they be able to get into it, or would there be too many references to past continuity that would annoy them?
No,
It's
I
hard.
think it's most of it is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think you need to have watched like The Wounded from TNG to know to understand the Cardassians on Deep Space Nine, for example.
Yeah, and there's a lot of TNG callbacks in the first season, but you know, and you can tell they were like trying to see like, is this show really going to take off? We have to
Yeah.
make sure that TNG fans like it, and so there were like a bunch of crossovers. And yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention. So the Birthright episode, right, takes
Yeah.
place at least at the start, on and around DS9. But you don't see a
Yeah.
lot of it. I think the only is Bashir literally the only character you see from
Yeah.
DS9. I think not even
Yes.
Quark.
No, Quark appears in a different episode.
Right. It's the Maquis one, right? Uh,
Yes, I think so.
that makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, Quarks get mentioned as in like, I think it's Crusher or something is talking about how she wants to hang out at the Hollow Suite or something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, Bashir and Data have a good time together. And Bashir is very fascinated by the way Data functions,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty adorable. Uh,
Yeah, breathing.
it's just yeah, but yeah. So let's see whatever there were some of the one-off Klingons that show up in TNG that we think are kind of special. There's a few of them. Just like the one where Worf is supposed to he's supposed to no wait, that's a Romulan. Okay, yeah, yeah. So the Romulan, he's supposed to donate blood to a Romulan or something like that, and the Romulan doesn't want to have anything to do with it because he's like, I will not
Well,
have your body.
one of Klingon that shows up is in the Drumhead, who
Oh
kind of
yeah,
the guy who sabotaged something or spied
yeah. He was a
something.
spy. He was a Romulan spy.
Yeah,
I mean, he was a Klingon, but he was spying for the Romulans
yeah,
for some reason.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to watch that episode actually, because it was one of the ones they remembered being quite dramatic. Even
It
though it's
is.
not really focused on the Klingons, it's got that woman who really, really, really doesn't like Picard.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's really has it in for him, and she makes this like grandstanding speech and everything. But
yeah.
yeah, it
And
had
then has
something
a
to.
nervous breakdown.
Was that?
Then she has a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, yeah. So that did have to do with yeah, because Picard showed sympathy for this spy and his family or something like that, and she didn't like that. So uh, yeah, I don't know. That's definitely one that I need to watch again because And yeah, I've only seen it the one time, way back when. So it was on my list. The thing is, I have this randomizer script that I sometimes use, and I like plug in shit, and it picks for me what episode I should watch. And it's kind of like, because in this day and age when we have access to everything, sometimes it's like overwhelming, and you're like, I just don't
Yeah,
know what to watch. What am I going to watch?
definitely.
So you click a button and it picks something for you, and you're like, okay, that's the one then. So the last time I watched a Star Trek episode, it was a TNG episode with it was actually funny because it came up, it was the first one that came up, and we actually brought it up in our last stream. It was the one where Data's dream program gives him a nightmare, which alerts him to the aliens that are
Yeah.
trying to eat the new warp core or something like that. And
Cellular peptide cake.
yes, cellular peptide cake. And you get to hear Worf say very uncharacteristic lines about how delicious the cake with mint frosting is. It's like, I always enjoy. I mean, okay, there is exceptions, but I always enjoy the episodes where people get to act out of character.
Yeah.
So Worf saying something like "the mint frosting is delicious," like it sounds so weird. Yeah, that was pretty fun. It's like, it just, you never know what it's gonna pick. So sometimes the episodes are not that great. But I'm just, again, I haven't seen a lot of them in so long that it's just kind of nice to, even the not great ones, sometimes
Yeah.
revisit them. Uh, but yeah, that one was pretty cool. Even though it is a season 7 episode, and so it's got that kind of like weird, too relaxed feeling to it. Where it's like, we know it's coming to an end, so it's just all this like really chill party now, even though this serious, dangerous stuff seems to be happening. Uh,
Pretty
there's
much, yeah.
exceptions, yeah, yeah, and there is exceptions, but yeah, and there's pretty much no really great Klingon episodes in season 7, are there?
No, it's just the one with old Alexander, and I think that's pretty much the only one there really
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So season 6 and 5 really is where the bulk of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oh yeah, I always remember we were talking about unification earlier. The stuff where Picard and Data are like guests on board a Klingon ship,
Oh, yes. I
and
forgot
they
about
have them.
that.
Yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, it's not much, but it's still cool. It's like they have
Yeah.
them. They sleep. They have them in the same cabin, and they're like the captain's like, yes, uh, Klingons do not believe in mattresses, so
Yep.
it's like he's like, have a good sleep,
Yeah.
and Data's like, why don't you take the shelf, Captain?
And Picard says, I look forward to Gach.
Yeah, yeah, and so the Klingons have a cloaking device, which the Federation doesn't, obviously. We talked about that last time too, and how much of a problem that was.
Yeah.
So if the Federation wants to do anything invisible, they pretty much have to ask the Klingons for help.
Yeah, it just
And
seems kind of weird that, I mean, even with a cloaking device, they shouldn't be able to go like straight to the Romulan homeworld. That seems a bit easy.
yeah, it's a plot convenience for sure,
Mm.
and gives the cast some opportunity for comic scenes where not Riker, Picard is trying to sleep, and he's like, "Data, you're staring at me,"
Yeah.
and I'm very uncomfortable. Yeah, um, but yeah, that Klingon captain was like very. He was very nice about the whole thing. like so all things considered, they kind
Yeah,
of like commandeered his ship for he probably didn't give a shit about the Balkans and what happened to them, right? He's just like,
yeah,
oh, he he's pretty chill about it all things considered. I'm kind of, I don't even remember that guy's name, but I'm kind of sad that he never showed up again.
yeah.
But it, like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it just seems a bit weird that with a cloaking device they could go directly to the Romulus, because that would mean in turn that Romulans can just randomly orbit around Earth and nobody would ever notice.
oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely like we said last time. There's no real, I don't know. Like it just seems like a bad deal all around. So I think like they realized that on Deep Space Nine, so they're finally like, yeah, we have to just let's just do it. Like we have a cloaking device now. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, shouldn't they have some tachyon sensor net or something, at least around the core systems, that you can somehow detect them? Otherwise, it's weird that there could be just an entire fleet uncloaking above a planet.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, but it works. So
Yeah,
that's
at least a
important.
unification.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, in Deep Space Nine, where there was that small arc where Gul Dukat captured a Klingon ship and was doing like his uh, lone wolf war against the Klingon Empire, and there were some limitations as to how far he could go.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that. See, this is again like there's so many cool things that happen on DS9. Um, I was thinking the other day about the episode where they activate the computer program on DS9 that like it's at the old Cardassian program, and it kind of takes over the station and tries to kill everybody.
Yeah, that's one of
And
my favorite.
yeah, yeah, that's a great episode. And then Gal Dukat shows up at the end, and he's like all happy about it and everything, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna build a presence here on DS9 again." But then it turns out that somebody's double crossed Gal Dukat as
Yeah.
well. It's like it's so funny. Yeah, and it just the situation just keeps getting worse and worse. And it's just so good the way they keep wrapping it up. Like
Yeah.
bit by bit, like every time they try to accomplish something to save themselves, they just make the situation worse. And
Pretty
then
much, yeah.
yeah, yeah, duh. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. One of these days, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to, maybe because I've seen the early ones so much, maybe I'll just jump to season 2 or 3 or something like that and start from there and just watch all of DS9 again.
Yeah, I recently watched the beginning three-parter of season 2 with the Bajoran Civil War kind of thing. That was pretty great, actually. Better
Oh
than I
yeah.
remembered.
So is that does that start at the end of season 1 or right at the beginning of season 2?
Right in the beginning of season 2.
Okay, so that would be a good place for me to start then. Yeah, because I have rewatched a lot of season 1 just because, like I said, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna start at the beginning, and then I just
Mm.
don't. And it's not because I don't like it. It's just because there's always so many other things to do, and then like time
Yeah,
passes, and I'm just, oh yeah, it's been a long time since I watched DS9, and um, I suppose that's one positive thing you can say about the old days of cable TV is you pretty much could only watch when they told you you could watch. So,
yeah,
but I don't miss it. But it's just like, yeah. I mean, it's now I have everything, so I can just watch it whenever I want, which is great. But it's also like,
yeah. It's too much of a selection, so
yeah,
you don't really know what to pick.
exactly, yeah. And you don't know, and there's people are always telling you about things that you haven't seen yet and things that you're curious about. Like I wanted to watch more of The Expanse, but I still have only watched about a season and a half. So I mean, I just, yeah, I mean, and to be honest, uh, in general, right now, I'm way more into reading than watching things. So that's just yeah. It doesn't really. I don't know. It's weird because I can spend like I could get into a book and I can all of a sudden 2.5 hours have passed, right? But if I
I
sit
mean,
there and watch television, sometimes I just feel like, oh, I should be doing something else. Like,
I
you
don't
know,
remember who told me about this, that recently, finally last year, an audiobook version of the Garrick novel came out, narrated by Andrew Robinson.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So we might want to bring that up. So yeah, we were complaining about that last time, and
Yeah,
he
came
did
out last
actually.
year.
Yeah, so he did actually record an audiobook, and
Uh,
we discovered that after the fact. So we were
Yeah,
we were both complaining about why this thing that we think should exist doesn't exist, but it turns out it does.
yeah,
So it just took a while for some
yeah.
reason. So yeah,
I have it, but I haven't listened yet.
yeah, I'm definitely curious about it, and I will probably, even though I generally don't do audiobooks, I'll probably listen to that just because he's reading it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
um, and yeah, I mean, I know we're getting off topic with the Klingons, but Garak is
Mm.
like just such a great character. Even though when you think about it, you never quite figure out what the deal is with Garak. Like the
Yeah,
kind of the whole point of Garak is that he's always this unknown quantity, right? And there's never, as far as I remember, anyway, there's never this like big revelation about what Garak's actual game plan is. He's
yeah,
just always kind of like, always nebulous. But at the same time, even though, yeah, he seems like maybe he's not always trustworthy, but you always like him,
yeah,
and it's like all the characters on the show, even they kind of like him, right? Like, even Major Kira doesn't really seem to mind him. So,
yeah. At least in the end, it's like the same with Worf on the episode where they go to the Dominion prison. At first, he hates him, and then at the
uh,
end, they kind of get along.
yeah, yeah, that's really cool. And it's so cool that they introduced him in the second episode of DS9, past prologue, and at that time they're like, we're not really sure if he's going to come back that much, but it's like he's so good, how could he not come back, right? And so luckily, I guess Andrew Robinson was available and ready to be committed to it. So
And not only that, to go full circle on our stream, they introduce him in an episode with Lursa and Betor and even have them threaten
oh
him.
yes. Yeah, we like those full circle things. They link things very well, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, true. So every time I talk to somebody about Star Trek for a long time, the result is afterwards I'm really in the mood to watch Star Trek. So I may actually do that while I prepare dinner.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to bring that subject to an end, a brief mention to that horrible movie, Star Trek Generations, where they die. That's where Lursa and Betor die. I watched that with my sister, and she basically said, oh, there go Lursa and Betor.
Huh. Yeah. You really don't like that movie, eh?
I really don't like it, no.
Uh, I didn't mind it, but there definitely were some missed opportunities. And
Yeah, the word would be disappointing, especially you go to the cinema all excited, and then it's like that.
so
Okay.
I cheated. I actually read the script before
Oh,
I went to see the movie because the script was available on the script got leaked online
oh,
before the movie came out. And so I read the script and I felt like, yeah, I have an excuse because I'm going to the cinema to see this movie because I knew I would, right? So I'm like, I'm going to the cinema to see this movie. I might miss something. So I'm going to read the script before I go see the movie so I know exactly what's going on. And so I knew what to expect. And so I wasn't really disappointed. Um, I mean, I read the script. And I'm like, yeah, it's not it's not high drama, but it's okay. I don't mind it. Like again, I think there were a lot of missed opportunities, and like those have been discussed a lot. I mean, the
Mm.
script went through a lot of rewrites, so usually when something goes through a lot of rewrites, that's bad news. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
always. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's fine. The Empire Strikes Back went through a ton of rewrites, but um, usually it's bad news. Usually it means like, yeah, they tried something and I was like, oh, that's not going to work. There's some obstacles. Originally they were going to have Spock there, but Leonard Nimoy's like, yeah, I'm not really interested,
yeah,
and you know, and maybe he was justified because he said, well, those lines could be given to any character. So I don't think the writers of the script were that interested in the TOS crew and making them, the real characters. So Kirk, sure, but so about those missed opportunities, though, it's too bad Kirk didn't get to meet Worf.
yeah. That's true.
That would have been cool.
Well, Kirk didn't really meet anybody except Picard.
No, no, and they could have done something with that. They could have done something with that. Just had him actually be on the Enterprise
Yeah,
and be like, "Wow, this is the new Enterprise. The chief of security is a Klingon. That's messed
mm,
up." But I could get used to it. But it's funny because in that book I read too, the Star Trek novel, Kirk actually uses a racial slur to discuss. It sounds like a racial slur anyway. He's talking about the Klingons, and he uses the word "klinger."
hmm,
Yeah, uh, we all know that Kirk doesn't like Klingons, so
yeah.
yeah. And I guess he has. I mean, he. I always thought like Star Trek 3 was kind of underrated, and I really like Christopher Lloyd's Commander
Mm.
Crew character. And yeah, I mean, I get why Kirk was not happy about that, but I
Yeah,
actually
obviously.
I think that making him like hate all Klingons as a result is kind of maybe a little much because Kirk was not like that generally. But I don't know. It's like obviously,
Well, that's just a thing they came up for Star Trek 6 to make it more dramatic,
yeah, yeah, totally, and it
to make
works.
the story work.
It
And yeah,
works
it
pretty
worked.
well. Yeah. And so there's actually a lot of Star Trek 6 and TNG connections too, with like Michael Dorn showing up and
Yeah,
some other, I think some other of the Klingon actors. And I mean, I don't know, David Warner's there, but he's not really a Klingon in TNG. So, but
yeah.
still, it's he plays that Cardassian interrogator, and really cool chain of command two-parter, which is again one of the
Jeez.
better.
Oh, that was me. Sorry.
Yeah,
That was me cutting out. Okay.
yeah, that was one that I did rewatch recently, and I think in part it was after we were talking about it,
Mm.
and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to watch that because it's been too long. And
What did you
wait,
rewatch? Because my internet just seems to have cut out for 1 second.
oh yeah, it cut off.
Yeah, I was just suddenly everything went quiet for a short moment.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was talking about rewatching Chain of Command. Like,
Oh, Chain of Command, yeah.
yeah, yeah, uh,
Yeah,
but
David Warner was in Star Trek 5, the best movie in history.
was it?
And yeah, wasn't that David Warner who played the human ambassador on the Paradise Planet?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
And then he played Chancellor Gorkon on Star Trek 6?
Chancellor Good. Yeah, yeah, David Warner was playing Chancellor Gorgon. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
I
So
think that
so.
was him in Star Trek 5 playing the human ambassador. Let me
Mm,
just check that really quick.
yeah.
Hmm. Not that anybody needs to talk about Star Trek 5, but just out of curiosity.
You know what? I completely forgot until recently that there were even Klingons in that movie.
David Warner, yes.
Completely forgot.
So I
Yeah,
guess getting a good role in Star Trek 6 was kind of an apology for him having to be in Star Trek 5.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. That I just right like Star Trek Five is so weird. Uh, I don't know. It's like yeah, that whole plot line with the Klingons. I can't remember what I was watching. If it was a YouTube video or somebody was talking about it, and I'm like, wait, there were Klingons in that movie? Oh yeah,
Yeah, they were.
yeah,
They were pursuing the Enterprise because they nobody knows. They were literally pursuing the Enterprise to pursue the Enterprise.
yeah, and that's it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, nobody really enjoys that movie amazingly well. Like, I don't know. It's. I mean, I suppose it could have been worse, but I remember. I mean, the first time I watched it, I didn't think it was that bad. Uh, but I think at that time, it was just like, oh, cool, a Star Trek movie.
Yeah,
This is not really. It's funny when you're younger and you're like not that critical of things and you just like accept it. But then as you become more experienced watching things and reading things and stuff, you kind of become more. I mean, I guess some people would say more discerning, but it can be kind of sad sometimes when like you remember something that you used to think was good and now you can't really get behind it anymore. It's like actually it's not that good.
yeah.
And
Didn't really make much sense.
yeah, yeah. But I do think like in recent years, my principle is that I want to try to enjoy things more sometimes, right? Like not pick things apart. But at the same time, you know, I can't help but do that somewhat, and I do,
And yeah,
uh,
sometimes things just aren't good. It's
yeah,
as much as it pains us, sometimes things just aren't good.
it's just not very good. Right? Exactly. Yeah. And as like I was saying to you earlier, I mean, I don't really get mad at bands not being good anymore. It's just I think that probably they're trying their best, even if we don't like it. So
Mm,
it's just like it's not good. Move on. Like it's not that big
yeah,
of a deal. It's,
exactly.
it's just like right. So
It's not like I
life's
have
life.
not like I have a subscription that forces me to buy anything.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta say, William Shatner's. It's still a presence in the world, making his opinion known about things, and I kind of am happy about that. He
Yeah,
released an album not that couple years ago, and still doing his William Shatner music,
yeah.
and yeah,
I'm a
like
rocket man. I'm a rocket man.
yeah, I enjoyed his cover of "Common People" from Pulp.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. Yeah, and he even does a cover of the Silver Machine from Hawkwind. It's like, how did he know
The
about Hawkwind?
hell! That was the loudest dog fart I ever heard.
Was that?
My dog just farted so loud that it startled me.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Good thing she's far away. Don't want to.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
Yes. Wow, I never heard her do that so loud.
Oh yeah. Oh man. But yeah. So yeah, Klingons. We like them. We think they're fun. And it's like it was funny because I was talking to my friend the other day, and they were talking about how they watched Enterprise with their buddy, and they tend to really like Vulcans, or
Yeah.
she really likes Klingons. So it's like, you know, it's like I sometimes can't help but thinking of Vulcans and Klingons as being like opposites. Like the Vulcans are just like cold and remote and emotionless, and the Klingons are like they wear their emotions on their sleeves and are very unsubtle and proud about showing it. And that's what makes them fun because every now and then I think Star Trek does fall into this thing where even the human actors, like the human characters, are like just babbling emotionless techno babble at one another.
Yeah.
And the Klingons you would never see do that. They just like they, uh, they talk about honor and bloodshed, and
Yeah.
they have a good time doing it. And all the actors really get to show their dramatic capabilities. And
There was actually one thing on Klingon Deep Space Nine episode I watched yesterday, where one officer said, "Pardon for the interruption." Like, wait, is that something a Klingon would say?
oh, well, wait, which one was that?
The last core episode, the
Oh yeah,
some
okay.
bridge officer was saying, "Pardon for the interruption." That doesn't sound like a very Klingon thing to say.
Yeah. Uh, cool. Yeah. So you've been watching more DS9 lately.
Yeah, it's pretty soothing.
Cool. Yeah, I need to. Again, when I use the randomizer, it's usually TOS or TNG episodes, just because they feel like okay to watch out of sequence, so you can just kind of watch whatever one comes up. And like I watched the Lights of Zatar TOS not that long ago, because I have weird memories of that one too, like staying up with my friend really really late at night, sometime in like 1992 or 93, and it was I don't know what time it was, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, or something, and we're just like channel surfing, and oh hey, it's Star Trek. I remember this. It's the Lights of Zatar. Cool. Well, it's kind of random, but
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I haven't really been watching too much at all, really, lately. A couple of movies, and yeah, a couple of Star Trek episodes, a little bit of Doctor Who, and that's about it, really.
Yeah, the thing that kind of annoys me lately, I mean, it always annoys me a bit that it's so soothing that when I watch it late in the evening, I fall asleep to it, and then the next day I was like, damn, I wanted to see how that ended.
See all the what?
How it ended.
Oh,
But then I
how it
fell
ended.
as
How it ended?
yeah, when I fall asleep to episodes.
I don't know. How does it end?
No, I mean in general, that when I watch episodes in the evening, I tend to fall asleep during them.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, that's happened to me a few times for sure because I do most of my watching at night. So
Yeah.
and sometimes yeah, it's like it's nighttime. You've had a few drinks. It's
Yeah.
kind of like yeah, it's fall asleep. Um, I quite enjoyed the show Space 1999, and the first season of that show is like it's very influenced by 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it's quite slow paced and just like really really atmosphere based and stuff. And the music is I don't know, it's just kind of it lulls you into this trance kind of state, and so and it's not bad. Like it's not like I'm dissing it, but it is easy to fall asleep during some of those episodes.
I think the absolute worst for me is the old BBC audio play of Lord of the Rings. I think I heard the first chapter like 20 times.
Whoa,
I,
whoa, yeah,
I can never make it further. I'm just
I've heard that. Yeah, yeah, that's good though.
Yeah, neat
Yeah,
trick.
I have tons of these the BBC audio dramas from like going back to the 50s up till now, pretty much,
Yeah.
and they definitely do some really good stuff even today. I mean, especially today because there's a lot more freedom to do really cool stuff with sound design now, right? So, and thanks to the digital capabilities, and yeah, I mean, but yeah, there's certain movies where I felt that way about. Like I've tried to watch Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, I think about 3 times, and I've never made it through. And I'm sure it's a really good movie. I'm sure I will like it at some point, but I've just never been able to stay awake while watching it. So
Yeah, I should watch it in the morning.
I should watch it in the morning, yeah,
Yeah.
because I actually do. I do a lot of my best reading in the morning, where I'm just like, I just like I wake up and I feel really focused, and I'm just like, yeah, it's if I want to get shit done, sometimes the morning is the time, and I'm like not exactly a morning person, but at the same time, that's when sometimes you can really focus on something and not be too distracted. And I haven't come out here yet. I haven't even made my coffee and sat down in front of the computer to begin the workday and all that shit. So, yeah, it's just, yeah. But I generally don't watch stuff after waking up. But maybe I should
No.
instead of like messing around with my phone and watching pointless YouTube videos and stuff like that. I mean, I'm subscribed to something like 500 YouTube channels now. I just realized the other day. That's a lot.
Yeah, I try to keep that very low because it just clutters up my feed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Makes it hard to find something.
I guess so. I mean, I find that the more channels that I've subscribed to, the more like YouTube doesn't really throw things at me that I don't want to watch like that often anymore. So it's okay. I don't mind. But yeah, it does make things like I want to keep up with a certain channel, even if I want to see the full subscription list. It's like 500 links. Like it's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff to go through now. I know all these keyboard tricks because I have to use them all the time. Like if I want to find a specific thing, I just search for the word right using the find feature, so I don't have to keep looking down and down and down and trying to find something. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Besides like the Star Trek shows and yeah, my 70s Doctor Who stuff and all that. Like I just haven't really been. I've mostly been reading lately.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't really been feeling the crime fiction, like classic American crime fiction and stuff.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I've been immersed in, I guess. Uh,
Not exactly my genre.
what's that?
Not exactly my genre.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I like the a lot of his stuff has that kind of hard boiled atmosphere, and it's got that like it's you don't know, the character that you start out with. Often, it's like a person that it's compromises themselves, gets mixed up with the wrong people or the wrong things, and by the end, they're totally fucking insane.
Hmm.
And you're just like you've been with them this whole time, and you're kind of shocked to see how far they'll go, and like so it's kind of the essence of they call it noir. It's like when the main character of a noir story is like somebody who gets in too deep to something that they probably shouldn't, and it ends up messing them up. And usually, of course, involves a woman, uh, getting mixed up with the wrong woman, and for various reasons, turning their life to shit, basically, and making the wrong choices. And you just see them make all the wrong choices, and that's part of the fun of it, I guess. It's like the writing styles. I don't know. It's just something I've been. pretty interested in lately. So,
I do have to ask you an unrelated question because we are almost at the end of our time limit, and
yes,
I'm actually really sleepy. I wanted to ask next time,
yeah,
does that fit into your day planning if we do it like an hour or 2 hours earlier? Because this is actually kind of really late for
yeah.
me.
So we do have people in the. I haven't been keeping up with any of that. You
We
usually that's your job, man.
we did, and there seems to be someone, I don't know, I didn't really pay attention. I'm kind of sleepy. I'm kind of zoning out at the moment.
Yeah. So here where I am, it's still pretty early, but for you, it's like 1 in the morning, right? So
Almost 2 a.m.
yeah, almost two now. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So as soon as we finish here, I'm my next thing is dinner. I'm gonna be making dinner, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna just fall down on the couch and
pass out.
yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to add. We kind of just started talking about random stuff, which is usually the way it goes, right? It's
Yeah.
just like, but the Klingons of TNG and DS9 are something kind of special in Star Trek, I think,
Yeah.
and we don't really see their likes again. I guess Voyager didn't really focus on them very much for obvious reasons, and
Well, Enterprise tries to bring in an ancestor of Duras, but it was kind of a
uh,
lame story.
yeah, yeah, and then there's Bolana Taurus going to Stovokor or something like that in one episode. It's like
Yeah,
it's just kind of weird. Yeah,
not the best episode ever.
no, but few of the Voyager episodes are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird though because I actually had a dream about Voyager the other day, and it was like very random. It was very like I don't even like that show very much, but yeah. But yeah,
It
so
was,
what time is so we have so what happens with that console thing that you use after 2 hours? It just kind of shuts
yeah,
down.
as long as I'm on the free plan, eventually, hopefully next month, I can pay the $25 a month for the um, not free plan. Then it
Oh,
wouldn't
really?
have a limit anymore.
Okay. But when you pay them, you should get unlimited, right?
Yeah, I can make as many as I want per month, and I think I can make them as long as I want.
Yeah. So for our podcast, we use Clean Feed, and it doesn't seem like there's no time limit, but you are limited. I guess if you pay, you get a more complex console with multiple channels. If you only get two channels, I think if you don't do the subscription thing, but still, with two channels, you can do a lot. Especially like you don't. It doesn't mean you can only have two people. It just means that your guests are all on the same channel, so you can't
Yeah.
like you can't cut off one guest or like I don't know adjust their volume settings separately and stuff like that. But
Okay, so we're ending in like 1.5 minutes, and
all right, man. So yeah, this was cool, and
yeah,
maybe if you want to do another one, we'll think of another topic. I
yeah,
think we keep
exactly.
kind of coming up with them and not noting them down. But I think there was one we mentioned earlier. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll
meanwhile,
figure something out.
How's that video about Will Wheaton doing?
It's so.
Is it still up though?
Yeah, it's still up.
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
Nobody complained about the
No, why
insult
would
in
they?
it. You never know with YouTube.
Yeah, he's all right, man. I don't know. I don't know much about him besides the Star Trek stuff, but Yeah. Okay, man.
All
Dinner
right.
time for me, and yeah, pass out. I'll let you know later on what Star Trek episode I decide to watch after, because yeah, now I'm in the mood because we've been talking about it for 2 hours. So yeah,
Yeah, that's the point.
that's the idea.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers,
All
man.
right. See you around.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Bye.
And ending broadcast.